Well, Mr. President, if you want, we can go ahead and get started, and we'll let others kind of catch up as they join, if that's okay.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. I think one kind of pro tip that I just learned about maybe 6 weeks ago is if you right-click your name, and I'm going to do it right now, you can edit it, and you can put the name of your company, and that way everybody kind of knows, where you're from. And it's kind of like a virtual name tag, right? So I just changed mine. I added Halbert Hargrove on there. So highly recommend everybody does that. Patrick, you're going to have to type out the whole new firm name. And so if everyone has a chance to do that, we're going to kick it off with an icebreaker.
Hey, Dave,
so
before you do that, let me just go over a couple of housekeeping items for everybody. And I know we've got a smaller group than normal, but just want to let you guys all know that we are going to record today's event. It goes into the catalog, into the library of all the stuff that we've been doing at the chamber, but also it'll go back out to this group and anybody who registered for the event. We're expecting some really good info from Eric on behalf of the city. No pressure, Eric. So we'll make sure everybody has access to that, and it's on part of our ongoing series in terms of our virtual and our webinar library. Also, like Dave said, if you can change your name as your virtual name tag. The chat is also open, so as we get along into the session here, whether you've got questions for our presenter or questions for us here at the chamber or even for Dave, who will help moderate later today, go ahead and throw that into the chat as well. So with that, it's a pleasure to turn it over to our president for this year, and many of you remember him from last year as well, Mr. David Koch of Howard Hargrove, who will lead us through today's presentation and today's meeting. Dave, it's all yours.
All right, so let's make this a real official kind of networking thing. We're going to kick it off with an icebreaker. I'm going to just call everybody out, going down the list, and so you got two questions you can answer. What was your first job or your worst job? So you got it? Your first job or your worst job? I'm going to go first. My first job was also my worst job, and I worked for this lady who had like kind of it was like an Airbnb before there was the internet, because I'm old, and I basically licked envelopes for her. And so she gave me this huge stack of stuff, and this is the 90s, man. So I was making like $5 an hour, and I must have licked. She goes, here's a stack. I'm going to come back. I got to run some errands. I'll be back. She comes back like 3 hours later. I must have licked like 500 envelopes before she told me about the sponge. You guys know what I'm talking about? So I licked like 500 envelopes with my tongue, and it almost fell out of my mouth. And I lasted a few more weeks, but that was the first job and the worst job. So Amanda, why don't you go next?
Wasn't there a Seinfeld episode with that where someone dies from licking too many envelopes?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, my first job was being a softball umpire when I was 14, which wasn't a bad gig. It was like $30 per game, so I felt rich for that age.
Baller. Eric, how about you?
Yeah, my first job, I was a bag boy at Albertsons, and I'm proud to say that I actually was so good at bagging groceries that I entered the regional competition in Huntington Beach for the Orange County area. I grew up in Cypress and Stanton area, and I got last place in that bagging competition. So I was proud to make it, but I did horribly at the actual event. My worst job was I worked at J. Crew when I was in college during the holiday season, and it was absolutely nuts. There were a lot of angry rich people that wanted their sizes in certain shirts that we did not have, and folding all of that clothes at the end of the shift to make sure that the store looked good again was just a nightmare. So there you have it.
Nice. Jeremy.
Sure. Well, this will show my age a little bit. So my first job, I worked at the warehouse, as in the warehouse music store, slinging cassettes and CDs. And I was there when the DVD revolution came out, and everybody was kind of blown away about that. But I was still there renting out VHS tapes. That was my first job, and it actually was one of the best jobs I had. I was with the company for almost 3 years, and they promoted me, I don't know how, to store manager my first year in college. Full on them. My worst job, at that same time, when I got tired of warehouse, I went directly to Costco. So I pushed carts at Costco. I lasted 90 days because they promised me that they would bring me in to do the checking or at least boxing of all of those big, heavy, bulky items, but they never brought me in. And I started in the middle of summer in July, August, September. So you can imagine it's super hot out there. So I was pushing carts before they had those cool cart pushing machines. And I got written up once for having too many carts in a line as I was pushing them. And then one flew off and veered off. And I'm not going to say it hit a car, but it flew off. And yeah, so I only lasted 90 days in that job. And that was my choice, by the way. I left because I said, this isn't for me.
Nice. Patrick.
First job, 13 years old at the concession stand at the community pool, which I just couldn't believe they put me in charge of anything at all. I was allowed to sit in there and eat as many curly fries as I wanted, and it wasn't that bad. And then worst job was in college. I was lifeguarding at an indoor pool that opened, that was like attached to the hospital, and it was kind of for physical therapy stuff. It opened at 4:30 a.m. and similar to Jeremy, they kept telling me they were going to put me on a normal shift, and they just kept putting me on 4:30. I was like, I am out of here. I cannot do this anymore.
Nice. Alcira.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to say my first job was as a teacher's aide. So I'm sorry to disappoint. My jobs have actually been kind of just, pretty blah. I don't have any exciting or funny stories. I was a teacher's aide and just work in retail. I can't say that I've had like a really bad job. Good times and bad times in all of them. But yeah, that's pretty much me.
Nice. How about Amber?
My first job was also my worst job. In high school, I worked at Philly's Best, and they wanted me to call out the order, like drop a Philly on the double. So I quit after 2 days because I just didn't want to do that. And since then, all of my jobs have been great.
Nice. Brittany.
Good morning. My first job was when I was 16 years old. My parents hired me as my great aunt's chauffeur. She had just lost her license. She was 80 years old. So I used to drive her, and I just got my license. So I used to drive her around to the post office and the grocery store. And she was the worst in the grocery store because she couldn't figure out which butter she wanted. So we probably stood in front of butter for like 30 minutes. And it taught me so much patience and just how to go with the flow. And I don't really have a worse job. Every other job has just been interesting or taught me something. So, yeah.
I hope you got paid by the hour, Brittany.
I did. They paid me $12 an hour, which was actually really nice. A lot of good gas money.
Nice. How about Christine?
My first job, I was a lifeguard with the city of Long Beach, and I was kind of spoiled because I was told that if I worked at a pool, it was really boring. So they gave me a job as a camp counselor where I was still a lifeguard, but I got to do like kayaking and canoeing and sailing, and it was super fun. So I was really spoiled, and I held on to that for like 8 years before doing something real. But that's it.
Fern.
Hi everyone, my name is Fern. I think this might be my first meeting and I'm gonna have to join the map soon, so this will be pretty brief, I think. My first job was at Mervyn's, California. You guys might remember that store.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of Union Bay striped t-shirts and overalls back in the day.
Yep.
And I worked scanning inventory and then got moved to the home fashions department, and I still fold my towels the Mervyn's way to this day.
There you go. I love it.
Nice. Jessica.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jessica De La Rosa, and my first job was when I was 15 years old back home in Guam. I worked for Senator George Bamba through the Department of Youth Affairs summer training program. It was pretty interesting. I mean, I was 15. I was probably making at that time I don't know, 2 something an hour was the minimum wage. But that was a lot at the time. So I can't really think of my worst job. I don't think I really have a bad story. I think I've kind of liked every job I've worked for. But this is my favorite job. Does that count?
Nice. JP.
How's it going? So my first job was when I was 16. We had a family friend that was kind of like a handyman contractor kind of thing that was nice enough to hire me on. And it was pretty fun, first gig. However, my worst job was actually one particular job on with him, where unfortunately an elderly lady had died, and she had like 30 cats and couldn't clean up after them. So the entire house was covered in, the stuff that cats create. And it was my job to tear up that whole house and clean it out. And I'm surprised I did not end up in the hospital from that job.
Wow. Marilyn.
Morning, everyone. I think I was 16 when I had my first job. Well, it was an internship. I was working at the Long Beach Historical Society, helping schedule tours and just entering data in the computer. Yeah, it was nice. I think I only was there for like 3 months. It was like a program with my high school. But yeah, it was fine. I liked learning about our city, so that was cool. I don't think I have a worst job like others have vocalized. I think I gained a little something from everything I've been through, so that's cool.
Thanks. Mary. Mary?
She doesn't have any audio.
And
I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. And I'm going to apologize. I'm going down the list of participants, but the order keeps changing. So if I forget you, just speak up. I've got Oscar.
Hey, good morning. My first job was actually working at Burger King through high school and first year in college. And it probably was my worst job thing. It was actually a good job. The thing that made it bad was I always get stuck with the night shift. So after my Saturday nights, getting out of Burger King at 11 o'clock, I would change and go to the club. So I probably was smelling like Whoppers at the club. So I don't know if that was good or bad.
Nice. Jordan?
Hey, so my first job was when I was in high school, and I was in the Bay Area selling newspaper subscriptions door to door, the San Francisco Chronicle and the Oakland Tribune. And I think you can imagine how hard it was to sell a newspaper Chronicle, and everything's going digital and how archaic it is. So I wouldn't say it was my worst, but it definitely was the one that built the most character for sure.
Nice. Patrick, Habitat LA.
All right. So my first job, actually, I probably want to pick my most unique job. In college, I had saw this ad that says $25 an hour, work only on the weekends. And so I ended up applying for it. And it turns out that it's a children's costume character. So I found out it was $25 an hour, but you only work like 2 hours a weekend because you only count the time when you actually were with the kids. So I did that for probably about a month, but I would have to go in on Thursday and pick up all the costumes I would wear on the weekend. So I think the max party I'd work was like 3 parties in a weekend, but I was anything from Pikachu to I think I was Chewbacca one time. The best costume though was a pirate, because all I had to do was wear this like kind of dressy material and I wasn't covered in head to toe in furry stuff. So that's the last time I applied for that. It says $25 an hour, thinking that I would be rich at the age of 19. So I don't know if it was my worst or my first, definitely not my first, but it was definitely one of my unique jobs that I had.
Nice. Susie.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My first job was when I was 14. I was a preschool teacher's aide. and it was a fun job. And I can't complain about my other jobs because I guess I always learn something new. So yeah.
Nice. Syed. Looks like he's still connecting. Johnny? All right. Well, no. Yeah, did we, who did we miss? Anyone want to go?
I don't
Anyone
know.
left
Did
that
we
didn't
hear
go?
from Julie yet? I see you, Julie, on. Did we hear from you? Yep. Oops, you're on mute.
My first job was as a waitress at Marie Callender's. And when they closed at 10 o'clock, all the waitresses and the servers and the cooks would grab a fork and go to the pies and just eat out of the center of the pies, and the turkey pot pies and the cornbread and anything that we wanted. We hadn't eaten in, days. And I ended up putting on 15 pounds in like 2 months. But that was, I'm sure they don't do that anymore. Actually, it's probably, they're all closed now.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Jeremy.
I think we got everybody, Dave.
Syed, can you hear me?
I'm here.
So we're doing just round robin, icebreaker. Tell us a little bit about either your first job or your worst job.
I'm sorry, can you guys hear me? This is Saeed.
We can
Hello?
hear you.
Yeah, we can hear that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Repeat the question again. I just logged back in. Go ahead.
Oh, your first job or your worst job?
Well, I immigrated from Iran in 1976. So my first job was a car wash in Seal Beach. And the very first day, I got my foot caught in that chain. So that was my very first job and worst job.
Oh, my goodness, Saeed.
Yep, that's the life of an immigrant.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you for being on with us, Saeed.
Thank you.
I think the last one that hasn't gone is Jen, I think. Jen Moore?
Past president of the Long Beach Young Professionals, Jen Moore.
Oh my gosh, I was up till 11 o'clock with the donor last night at Nico's, Jeremy. You know how that goes.
Yes.
That's way too late for me. I haven't stayed up that late in a year.
Get that money.
What?
I said, get that money.
Get that, yeah. My first job was Baja Fresh, and I loved it. I got 50% off. I was like 16. It was awesome. So I don't know what my worst job was. I did work on the Queen Mary, which was fun, but it was like a terrible job. Like I hated every second of it, but we got free food. So I was like, oh, that's cool. It was during college.
Thanks, Jen.
All right. Well, let's kick it off. I want to introduce our guest speaker, Eric Romero. He's an experienced economic development and local government professional. He manages a diverse portfolio of programs and projects that support small businesses, revitalize commercial corridors, advance economic opportunity, and improve the quality of life. Eric has unique experience in leading business and community outreach strategies, program development and management, public policy, special projects, and strategic planning. He has the honor of serving in a leadership role for the City of Long Beach Economic Development Department, Business Development Bureau. Eric intends to build a long and successful career in local government and aspires to join an executive leadership team in the coming years. He has a master's degree in urban and regional planning from the UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs and a bachelor's degree in sociology from California State University, Long Beach.
Go Beach!
Waiting for that. Without further ado, Eric Romero, take it away.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you again to Jeremy, Amanda, and the Chamber team for inviting me to speak to you all today. I'm embarrassed to say that this is the first time that I've joined a Long Beach Young Professionals meeting, but I hope to join more of them moving forward as I consider myself still to be a young professional, but I think I will also need to join that MAPS group in the coming years. So I did put together a presentation for you, so I'm just going to share my screen here if you will just bear with me while I get it set up. 1 second. Can you all see my presentation? Thumbs up? Yes? Okay. All right, so I have a lot of information that I'm going to cover today. I know I have 15 minutes to talk. So Jeremy, Amanda, please let me know. Give me the sign when you need me to start wrapping up, and I'll do my best to cover as much of this information without speaking way too fast. But first and foremost, I think it's great to grow my network here in Long Beach. If you take away anything from this presentation, I really want you to know that there's someone here. My name is Eric, and I'm lucky to have other colleagues here on the call or in the meeting that are here to help you. So I know that many of you work in small businesses or may own a small business yourself, and we are here to support you, as best as we can during this very difficult time in the history of the world. And so we are here as a resource to you and can help answer questions about everything that has to do with small business ownership, licensing and permitting issues, or anything else. If we can't answer the question, we'll connect you to the person in the city that can answer that question. So thank you for joining today, for hearing me speak for a while. And please, if you know someone that can benefit from this information, please share it with them so that they can get connected to some of the important resources that I'll be talking about today. So just a quick introduction on myself. So you've learned about my first job and my worst job. And I've had a lot of other jobs since those jobs. And I started my job with the city of Long Beach about six years ago. I started as an unpaid intern in the Office of Sustainability. And then I left for a little while and came back and returned as a project manager in the city manager's innovation team. It was a 3-year, $3 million funded effort by Bloomberg Philanthropies. And we had essentially a research and development team within City Hall that would work with other departments to study big issues and try to identify innovative solutions to address some of those issues. The first priority that we had was economic development. Many of you that have been in the city for some time know that we didn't have an economic development department for about a decade. And when Mayor Garcia came into office, he made economic development a priority again. And so we came in and started working with people like Saeed Jalali, who's in this call, and he's my boss, so I'll do my best to represent you well, Saeed. And really trying to understand what was happening in our local economy, in our regional economy, developing great relationships across the city, both internally with departments, but also externally with community-based organizations, business associations, and businesses, of course, and did a lot of great work there. And then I've transitioned over to the Economic Development Department, and I've been with the Economic Development Department for almost 4 years now, of course, working under the leadership of John Keisler and Saeed Jalali, and I'm glad that we have a few other colleagues here today. So we do a lot of different things, and it's a wild ride for sure, working in the city, especially during these times, but it's an extremely meaningful job. And for me, really, what we do here is all about moving our community forward. So of course, it is a job. I need to pay the bills. I have a family to take care of. For me, really, the reason that I come in every single day is my why. And my why is really to make sure that we're taking the steps that we need to take in collaboration with all of these great organizations that do some amazing work throughout the city to ensure that we're moving our community forward, really creating economic opportunity for workers, investors, and entrepreneurs. And that is the mission of the Economic Development Department here in the city of Long Beach. So the Economic Development Department, we do a lot of different things. We have 3 big bureaus that deliver programs and services. And the first one is our real estate and property services division. And we have Mary Torres and Fern that are great leaders in our department that represent that bureau in our department. And they do everything from speaking with investors in the city, trying to bring new development opportunities to the city, whether that's a completely new parcel that's available that's been sold by the city, or repositioning existing properties, for example. They also manage our city-owned assets. So for example, the land under the Long Beach Town Center, the Queen Mary, there are a lot of other city assets, and they do a great job at doing that. We also have Pacific Gateway. I know that some of you are familiar with Pacific Gateway, and may have met Lucius Martin from that group, or Nick Schultz. And they ultimately oversee our workforce functions in the city of Long Beach. They connect people that are dislocated workers, for example, or just need additional training and skills to find a good job. And they provide them all kinds of training opportunities. They also work with employers that need custom training programs to identify the right talent. They do job fairs and a lot more in the city of Long Beach. And the team that I'm on, under the leadership of Saeed Jalali, is the Business Development Bureau. we're a lean and mean team, and we do a lot of different things. But at a high level, we help people start, sustain, and grow their businesses, and we help to revitalize commercial corridors throughout the city. The way that we do that is that we develop and manage financial assistance programs. I'll talk about some of them today, but think small business loans, think about small business grants, and there are lots of grants that are becoming available in response to COVID-19 that I'll talk about. We also help people navigate the process of permitting or licensing a business if they're a new business or if they're relocating. We don't regulate it at all, but we help facilitate it in partnership with departments like Development Services, Health, Fire, PD, and others. We also connect people to important resources that they might need that aren't financial assistance. So think business planning, think digital marketing and communications, think financial planning or adjusting your financials, that important technical assistance that businesses need. We also do a lot of business attraction and retention work. The priority really right now is business retention, trying to help small businesses and other size businesses survive during these difficult times. But there are still some businesses that are interested in starting in Long Beach or relocating to Long Beach. So we talk with them and try to talk to them about the opportunities in Long Beach and why it's a good place to start and grow your business. Of course, we oversee the city's business improvement district program. We have 10 business improvement districts. We contract with groups like the Downtown Long Beach Alliance, the Bixby Knolls Business Improvement Association, and others to really focus on place-based economic and community development, everything from business attraction and retention efforts to just quality of life issues like maintaining a clean sidewalk or picking up trash from the street. And we also get special one-time funding from council offices to do special projects in their districts as well. We collect a lot of data and report out that data, and we have a great economic insights dashboard that's available on our website that I'll put a link to it in the chat when I'm done talking. That's available to you for free, information about our population, our local economy, housing, and a lot more. And of course, we oversee some of the department's communications functions, so everything from social media to email newsletters and more. So again, we're a lean and mean team. There are a lot of other duties as assigned, but please do not hesitate to contact me or members of my team to learn about any of these resources and how we can connect you to them. So before I jump into talking about some of the programs that we have available for small businesses, I always think it's important to talk about data, to understand what's happening in our regional and local economy. And there's a great organization called the Brookings Institute that puts out a lot of great research on national, regional, and local economies. And they have something called the Brookings Metro Recovery Index. And our team's been tracking this information to understand how we're performing at the regional level. And while we're here in Long Beach, it's important to recognize that we really are a regional economy. When you look at labor flows, we're Long Beach residents, people that work where they work, most of them don't work in Long Beach. And so, we are not an isolated economy. The regional economy, how it's performing really impacts how we do here in Long Beach and vice versa. So there are a few stats I just want to talk to you, and I think you may know some of this, but it's important to just have some hard numbers. So when you look at unemployment rate in the county, we know that unemployment rate has shot up tremendously due to really the economic emergency that has been caused by COVID-19. And we have some local data as well, but you can see that that unemployment from March to April really shot up, and it's been declining steadily. It's about 14.4% in the region in August. I believe it's about 15.2% in Long Beach as of September. But we have some work to do to ensure that we are plugging in these dislocated workers into opportunities that are available to them, and ensuring that we truly understand the employment needs of businesses to connect them to the talent that's available, which all impacts consumer spending and impacts small businesses. If consumers don't have money to spend, then they're not going to be shopping at their local establishment, and our small businesses will, of course, struggle. A similar data point that I want to talk to you right now is around the number of job postings. So it's important to know if businesses are actually hiring right now. And we do see that there was a substantial decrease from March to April. And it's really job postings, new businesses that are hiring for new employees have remained somewhat steady from about April to September. But of course, we want this number to go up. Brookings also has some information on small business closings, and this isn't information that speaks to permanent closures per se. It's just businesses that are currently not open They might be closed temporarily. Some of them may never come back. We're not sure at this point in time, but you can see that the businesses that have closed from March to April, of course, shot up. And they've actually started to slowly open up a little more as the state and Long Beach have allowed more businesses in different industries and sectors to start to open up. But we still see that, at least in the region, around 28% of them have closed from the baseline information that they've been tracking. And this is all through a data source called Homebase that Brookings has tapped into. And the last piece of information that I'll speak to right now is around commercial vacancies. So we know that in order to have thriving commercial districts and even good quality of life, we need our storefronts to be filled. And when we have vacant storefronts, it creates a lot of different issues for the city and for the residents of Long Beach. And it's interesting to note that when you look at the commercial vacancies across the region, they've stayed somewhat steady. There haven't been huge increases. I think there are reasons for this. As many of you know, that we've had eviction moratoriums and rent deferment periods across the country and the region and locally that have really allowed commercial tenants to stay in their location. And I think has helped to stem some of these commercial vacancies. But as some of those commercial eviction moratoriums begin to expire, and as the economic emergency continues, we do know that this commercial vacancy rate may climb. And so we're monitoring this closely and are always trying to find ways to connect with businesses to ensure that we're supporting them with the resources that they need so that they can not only pay their rent, but pay payroll and other important needs that they have as well. So I'll transition to talk briefly about the local economy right now. And many of you may or may not know that we have a great partnership with Cal State University Long Beach, their College of Business, specifically their marketing department, with a great professor named Dr. Scott Flexo. And Dr. Flexo and his team have for many years been coordinating something called the Small Business Monitor. They asked small businesses, I believe it's the sample size of about 300, a number of questions around what some of their biggest challenges are, what some of their biggest opportunities are, how government is performing in terms of being business friendly, for example, and a lot more. And Dr. Flexo, in response to COVID-19, put together 2 COVID-19 Small Business Monitor surveys. And the latest one looks at the average percentage of sales lost versus the same time last year for small businesses and different sizes of businesses. So we have micro businesses and small businesses is what we're going to call them generally. But we see that businesses with 4 or fewer employees, really smaller businesses, the average percentage of sales that they lost compared to the same time last year was about 70%, which is huge. Larger businesses, but still small, 5 to 50 employees, it's 53%. And overall in the sample size in the survey that they completed, it was 61% of the average sales have lost this, right now versus the same time last year, which again is huge. They also asked the percentage of businesses that have laid off or furloughed employees. And we see that these micro businesses, around 73% of them have laid off or furloughed an employee. The smaller 50 to 50 employees, it's been about 53%. And overall, it was about 67% of the survey respondents that laid off or furloughed an employee. They also track this information by different regions here in the city. And I can certainly send more information on the zip codes that are included in these different regions. But when we look at the average percent of sales lost, there's some similarities here. There's some consistency, but all over 60%. In the Northwest, it's been about 60% of sales that have been lost. In Northeast portions of the city, it's been 67%. The Southwest, it was 66%, and Southeast is 60%. And overall, it was 63%. So I think many of us know that the city and our local economy is struggling, which makes our work here in the city more important than ever before. And I think it's also important to just provide some data to show what's happening in our local and regional economy. So I'm going to transition now to talk about some of the work that we've been doing to support our local economy since the start of COVID-19. So we have in our department something called the Department Operations Center. The city manager directed us to establish this center. It's really an economic resiliency unit at the start of COVID-19. And it was really focused on ensuring that our department leadership was meeting every single day, Monday through Friday. Sometimes we had done weekends to talk about how we're responding to the economic emergency. So really the purpose of this group is to coordinate strategy to support economic resiliency at the local level. So again, from the real estate side to the workforce side to the business side of the aspects of the work that we do. and to also develop a rapid response communications network. So as that new information becomes available, say, for example, a change in the health order or a new resource that becomes available, that we're activating all of our different partners across the city and empowering them with this information so that they can connect all of the thousands of businesses across the city of Long Beach to these opportunities and this important information. And we're glad to say that we've really strengthened our communications network. There's still room for improvement, of course, and we imagine that we're going to continue to build off of these great relationships that we've strengthened over the last few months. Of course, businesses need financial assistance. And so a big priority has been access to capital. So different programs that are coming from the federal government, like the Paycheck Protection Program or the Economic Injury Disaster Loans. I think you're all familiar with that, or new local or regional programs that are available, and ensuring that we understand them and that we're pushing them out to as many people as possible. And of course, the workforce development piece is important as well. So strengthening our existing workforce programs, but also developing new ones to ensure that we're capturing all of the benefits that are available to workers, like pandemic unemployment assistance that was made available by the federal government, for example. And trying to find ways to reduce the cost of doing business. We know that cash flow is extremely important. It always has been. But if the city can alleviate some of the burden on businesses through our regulatory process, we're talking about that as well. So I want you to know that we're meeting all of the time. We're talking about this almost every day and working around the clock to ensure that we have our finger on the pulse and are responding to the very real difficult needs that small businesses and other investors in the city have right now. One way that we're doing this, and something that's been important around communicating information about the health orders, about city policies, about resources, has been standing up our COVID-19 business hotline. So we currently have a team of people that are working Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and are taking calls from workers and business owners around resources that they might need to tap into. Other questions like clarification on what business protocol they need to follow. I think per the health order, we have like 10 or 12 of them right now, and sometimes there's some gray area within that. And so we try to clarify some of those issues. And if you haven't heard of this number and need information, you can always call them at 562-570-4BIZ, 4BIZ, or 4249. Please share this information with as many small business owners as you know that are in your network. We've also stood up a similar resource, which is an online resource that if you have access to a computer and technology, you can access 24 hours a day. So we have our business and worker resources webpage that's available at www.longbeach.gov/4BIZ. And it attempts to centralize all of the different resources and information that's available. We are looking for people to provide us feedback on how they are accessing this information. And we know that there's now a lot of information on this webpage, and that sometimes it can be overwhelming when you're dealing with all of the real challenges that COVID-19 has created for us. And so if you have any input on resources that aren't there that you would like us to include, or ways that we can continue to improve on the information, please let us know. Ultimately, we need to hear from small business owners and people that are committed to advancing our local economy. And we utilize the input to ensure that we're designing our services and information in a way that makes sense for people, so that they can digest it and benefit from it. So I spoke to this a little bit, but our rapid response communications network is multi-pronged. So we have weekly calls, sometimes multiple calls a day with our partners across the city. So, business associations like the Chamber, business improvement districts, and others, to ensure that we're working through the challenges that we're facing. We have our business briefs, which has really been an informal communication from me that highlights some new resources that are available. The purpose has really been for people to receive this information and recycle it in their own newsletters, and it's been effective to date. We have our email blasts, and then of course we have community presentations like this. I think I've done over 50 similar presentations to ensure that we're really connecting to folks about the resources that are available and how they can benefit from them. So I'm running up against time here, but I'll just talk a little bit about a few resources, and then I'll try to wrap up. So we know that financial, 5 minutes? Okay. We know that financial assistance is extremely important, and the city is happy to announce that we have a few programs available for our small businesses. We have our emergency microloan program, and we really pivoted an existing microloan program that we had to respond to COVID-19. And so small business owners in the city can currently benefit from an emergency microloan between $2,500 and $10,000. And it is at an affordable interest rate. It's a fixed interest rate of 2.4%, meaning it won't change over the term of the life of the loan. And it's an unsecured loan. So traditionally, if you borrow money from a bank or another lender, you have to pledge some of your assets in the case that you cannot pay back. But in this case, the city of Long Beach recognizes that this is an emergency and that we need to take risks to support our small businesses. So we're doing that. So this is an unsecured loan. And currently, if I believe we're actually going to change this to 12 months, but if you get approved for this loan, you do not have to make your first loan payment for at least 12 months. I'm going to pass on the Kiva loan program because it'll take up the rest of the 5 minutes, but I will share this presentation with Jeremy and Amanda so that they can forward it to you all. There's more information here. I'm going to wrap up with two more things. So this grant program and then a final slide. So the newest program that we have available that will support small businesses is funded through the CARES Act. It's money that we received from the state of California, thanks to our mayor and our city council, to really petitioning the state to secure some of that funding. And we've utilized some of that funding to develop a small business transition and technology grant program. This is really two grant programs. The first one is a working capital program that can provide grants to help with commercial rent, inventory, payroll, PPE. We know that list of the PPE needs continues to grow, everything from face shields to face masks to disinfectant wipes to hand sanitizer. I'm sure you can add to that list, but the cost of doing business has certainly increased and we want to help you with that. Businesses can receive up to $5,000 through this grant program. The second one is our technology grant program that is really meant to help businesses procure and implement new technology that will reduce the spread of COVID-19. So think about contactless payment systems, appointment scheduling systems, or now creative point of sale systems that will enable you to do all of that. But we also want to make sure that we provide some money to businesses so that they can increase their online and digital presence. So we know that if a business does not have a website, if they don't have an online store, if they don't have social media presence, then they're at a tremendous disadvantage. And so we want to provide some funding to help people with that. So businesses can get up to $2,000 through this grant program. Technical assistance is important. There are a lot of technical assistance providers. I'll just say that. Certainly more to say here, but I'll get to the last slide so that we can open up for Q&A because I know that we have a limited amount of time here. Really, for me, what's important to discuss with you all is aside from all the resources that are available, it's around what's next. So we've been doing a lot, and you saw the slides I just went through and some I didn't cover to support businesses and our local economy during this time, but there's more to do. We need, of course, Congress to act so that they can provide some additional financial resources to the city so that we can continue to maintain our very important operations to provide important services to the city, but also to continue to support our local economy and small businesses and to strengthen consumer spending. So again, if we don't have additional unemployment benefits and support for workers, people aren't going to have money to spend at businesses and businesses are going to suffer. So we really are looking for Congress to lead and provide some additional resources, and we're hoping something happens really soon. We need to do more research, right? So we need to truly understand the impacts across the city for small businesses, for workers, for investors, but we also need to have more granular information at the neighborhood level to understand what's happening, for example, in Belmont Shore or Cambodia Town or Bixby Knolls, so that we really have our finger on the pulse with some of these key performance indicators that I talked about earlier. So vacancy rates, small business closures, and a lot more, and really have that nuanced understanding that is required to truly design services that meet the needs of our small business owners and of other investors in the city of Long Beach. We, of course, need to cultivate stronger private-public partnerships. I strongly feel that the city cannot and should not do it all alone. We need to work with groups like the Chamber. We need private foundations to invest in Long Beach. We need to build relationships with them. As Jeremy mentioned earlier, we need to get that money too and make sure that we're investing here in the city of Long Beach to support our local economy. And now more than ever before, we need creative outside the box solutions, and it needs to be all hands on deck. So there are lots of ideas that we've explored. There are lots of ideas that we haven't explored. And right now is a time to take some risks, to try some new things, and to do whatever it takes to support our local economy and move our community forward. So I know I said a lot. I will just wrap it up with saying, please be safe out there. Please take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your community, and we all need to work together to truly solve some of these difficult challenges that we're going through right now. And with that, I'll wrap up and just say thank you so much for listening to me. I know I talked really fast, but I hope that some of this information was helpful and beneficial for you all. Stop there. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. A lot of great information. If you guys haven't opened the chat, John from the Business Development Bureau is also, sorry, the Economic Development Department, I believe, has also put some good links in there. Amanda, I think we're going to do some breakout rooms.
So
let's do some Q&A first.
Yeah, let's go do a couple.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions in the chat, but before we get there, I just kind of want to kick it off and first say thanks to Eric, John Keisler, and the entire Economic Development Department team for their heavy lifting during this time. You heard Eric's presentation. They're working on a lot of things, but I can tell you since the beginning of the health orders, since the beginning of this pandemic, they have been a #1 partner with us at the Chamber and assisting our members, not just our members, but the entire business community in the city of Long Beach. So they've always been easy to reach, whether it's late at night or early in the morning. And I don't know when these guys and their team get any sleep, but because it seems like they're always on. So we appreciate that. And I know personally, you've helped a lot of our folks on our side. Eric, let me just kick off the Q&A by asking just a simple question, and maybe that kind of brings home a lot of the information you've talked about, because you've done a wonderful job of laying out all the different programs the city's offering, a robust website where they can go. We share a lot of that information on our side during currently, and then also on our COVID-19 resource page. But if there's one grant or one piece of assistance that you can kind of direct people to, or you're seeing a lot of folks go after that maybe funding is limited or starting to run out, what would that be? So for any of these folks that are on there that are small business owners, is there one grant or one area that you want to direct folks to say, hey, check this out sooner rather than later, because we know funding is not always going to be there?
So there are three things, and I'll make it brief. One is the LA COVID Regional Fund. So they are in the 6th round of their application. I think they only have 6 rounds. This is the last round, and it's open right now. They provide larger grants than we can because they're a much larger agency. Our Small Business in Transition to Technology Grant Program is important, and we have limited funding. We have to spend all of the funding by the end of this calendar year. There's still some opportunity to apply, but please apply as soon as possible. The last piece, which I think is just as important as financial assistance, is technical assistance. So I didn't get to speak to this earlier, but people, of course, need money. But if they are not thinking about how they're updating their business strategy, or if they don't have a business plan, they need to put a business plan together. They need to think about their financials. They need to think about their target market, how they're reaching their audience. And if they only have money and aren't thinking about the path forward, then they're not going to get really far. So we need people to get connected to this free assistance that we have made available through contracts with service providers for them. So please also benefit from that great technical assistance. That's just as important, in my opinion, as financial assistance.
Great. A lot of great information there, Eric. We really appreciate that. And I'll just piggyback real quick. The LA County COVID Fund that Eric talked about, it's on our website. We've been promoting that all week, and you are correct. This is the last of the rounding of the funding, round 6. So it is a much larger grant. So I encourage a lot of you, if you don't know what that is, reach out to us. We'll direct you to the site where you can get that. This is the last week for that. So thanks again, Eric. Dave, I'll turn it back over to you for 1 or 2 more questions, and then we'll move on with our program.
We got a question from Amber. Do you want to go ahead and ask Eric?
Yeah, Amber, you put in the chat, we talked about the latest news with Gulfstream unfortunately exiting the city of Long Beach. She's asking, and a lot of us probably want to know is, what steps can we do, or what's in the work is in place to prevent other companies, large employers really, from leaving Long Beach, and what can the city do to assist with that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's a huge loss for the city, of course, and we're all disappointed to hear that news. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, business retention is the priority right now. Of course, we're a lot of small businesses that are leaving too, but when a large employer like Gulfstream leaves, that's difficult, a big blow to us. I think while there are some challenges that come with that, and certainly we need to find a way to support these workers and continue to bring in that additional economic revenue that they've brought to the city, I think there's also a lot of opportunity within what's happened. So I think many of you know that there's a growing innovative aerospace industry in the city of Long Beach, everything from satellite launches to building rockets here in our backyard around the airport. And that piece of property, those 22 acres, I think it is, that's available, creates additional opportunity for us to continue to cultivate that industry. I know that there are some companies that have expressed interest in expanding. There are others that may be interested in locating to Long Beach. And we know that it's important in economics for different companies to really aggregate their supply chain and their talent in industry clusters. And we have an industry cluster here by the airport. So I think it's difficult to hear the news. It's going to take some time to recover, but I think there's a lot of opportunity within this as well. And I'm going to stay hopeful on this one.
Great, Eric. Thanks for that. David, any more questions from our folks?
I don't see any more in the chat. Anybody have any more questions?
We'll take one more question if you want to just raise your hand, and we'll call on you. Otherwise, we'll let Eric go to his next meeting because I know he's got probably about 10 more planned for today. Okay, seeing none. Eric, again, can't thank you enough for the time you gave up this morning. I know you were jumping from one meeting to the next, and again, I know you've got others on your plate today. Can't thank you and Saeed and John and the entire Economic Development Department team once again for joining us this morning and assisting not just our members, but the entire Long Beach business community. So thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I think with that, we've got a little bit more time to round out our program this morning. And I know folks have to jump off here. We go to about 10:15, but I'll turn it over to Amanda Donahue to kind of take us to the next step. And I think we've got time for maybe one round of breakout sessions. And so Amanda, with that, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, for everyone that wants to stay on, we can do one breakout room since we used up most of our time today. But what we're going to do is we're going to break out into groups of about 3 to 4 people, and we are going to discuss one topic. And today's topic is going to be, how can the chamber or the city assist your company or organization at this time? So after we all go into the breakout rooms, we can come back, and whoever has the best question or idea with that, we'll be able to discuss it openly. So I'll go ahead and get the breakout rooms started. Okay, enjoy.